Okay, solve the equation. We have the quantity x minus 7 to the second power equals 7. So we have to solve for x. Now when we see a parentheses, my first idea is, oh, I'll just distribute. I'd put a 1 in front of it, okay? And then I'll just distribute. No, you're not, because that 2 right there blocks you from being able to distribute, okay? So this is how you get rid of a parentheses when you're blocked. You are going to replace the parentheses with a new variable, just a single variable. Let's call it capital H. Now, if you have a 1 multiplier, you don't need the multiplier, but you do need the second power equals 7, okay? By the way, x would have 2 answers because it is to the second. Now, I will solve for h, but after I'm done solving for h, I'm going to need to line up my table and bring back the expression x minus 4, whatever's in the quantity of replacement, okay? Now, you're like, why do you do it on 2 sides? Well, because to get rid of a second power, we have to square root. That's why there's a power, right? That's why we have to use this method, because we can't distribute. There's a 2, okay? And so we're going to have to get rid of the 2 with a root, a square root. So what number times itself is 7? Now, it could be a positive or a negative. Now, the square root of 7 is irrational, okay? So it's going to be 2.65. So what we do, those aren't your 2 answers, okay? Those are the solutions for the parentheses, the h. Now, to find the actual x answers, we set the x minus 4 quantity equal to 2.65 and then negative 2.65. Then we solve. So we add 4, and that's 6.65. Then we add 4, and that's 1.35. So those are your 2 solutions. Okay, the next one. 3 times the quantity t plus 5 to the second power. So the second power outside the parentheses means you are blocked. You cannot distribute the 3 to t and 3 to 5. Then minus 7 equals 17. So that tells me I'm blocked with the parentheses. Now we have to still get the 2 answers for t this time. Okay. So I replace the whole quantity with h. Okay. H has a multiplication value of 3. It's to the second power. It has a subtraction operation of 7, and it equals 17. Okay? So, then I got to remember my table where I bring back the t plus 5. Okay, so I have multiplication and a second power minus 7. So we highlight the multiplication part. We get rid of the minus 7 with plus 7, and that's 24. Then we will divide by 3, and h to the second power is equal to 8. Now I find the square root of 8. So h could be a positive or negative. And then I find the square root of the number value 8. It's 2.83. But remember, that's not your x answers. That's what the t plus 5 is equal to, okay? So I have solved for h, but then t plus 5 is equal to 2.83 or negative 2.83. So we get rid of the minus 5. 2.83 minus 5 is negative 2.17. There's your first answer for t. Then minus 5, and t is equal to negative 7.83. Okay, next one, the variable is q. It's to the second power, but it's in a parentheses. Okay, so we want to remove the parentheses from the problem. Now there's 2 answers for q. Okay. And again, it's inside of parentheses, but the 2 blocks you from being able to distribute. You're blocked from distributing. So you remove your quantity q plus 3 and you replace it with an h variable. Now it's multiplied by 4. It's going to be h to the second equals 28. You got to remember the second power because the quantity is to the second, so the h is going to be to the second. Okay. Now, after I solve that, I need to bring back the expression q minus 3. So we have multiplication, so we're going to divide by 4, and that's 7. And now we find the square root of 7. Positive, negative, and the square root of 7 is 2.65. Okay, so 2.65, negative 2.65. So then we add 3, and that's 5.65. So there's your solution for Q. And that's going to be 0.35. Okay, next one, 18 equals 2, quantity x minus 2 to the second power. So again, we need to solve for x. X is to the second power, so there's two answers. But we cannot distribute because of the second power. That little 2 power means you are blocked from being able to distribute the 2 to the x and the 2 to the negative 2. So again, replace that with the capital H. So we have 18, 2 times the capital H to the second. And then after we solve for the H, after we find out the value of the quantity, the value of H, we got to remember that H is actually equal to x minus 2. So I bring in back x minus 2. So I will divide, H is over here, so I divide by 2, and that's 9. And then I find the square root of the number 9. And that's easy. It's positive, negative. The square root of 9 is 3. So again, that we need to bring 3 and negative 3 over here to solve for x, okay? So I add 2, and that's 5. Then I add 2 to the negative 3, and that's negative 1. Okay, now I threw a little wrench in the next problem, okay? You're solving for x, x to the second, so there's two answers for the x. The highest power x is ever to is the second. Now when we look to get rid of the parentheses, I don't see the power here, so I am not blocked here, okay? So I don't need to bring in the h, I just distribute like normal, okay? So on this side we have 11x to the second plus 3. On this side we have 20x to the second minus 15. See, you're not blocked from distributing, okay? There's no power outside of that, so the block is not on, so I distribute it like I normally did, okay? Now, look through that equation. What do you have for x? You have x to the second only. I mean, there's two of them, but it's just x to the second. There's no x to x or x to the third or anything like that. The only x's that I do have are both to the same power, to the second power. So it's x second only, so that's linear properties. So linear properties, you look at your x's and you take out the smaller ones. So I'll subtract 11x to the second from 20x to the second, so 3. Now 20 minus 11 is 9. Now the x to the seconds we don't subtract. We leave those as x to the seconds, okay? Don't get rid of the powers or anything like that. Okay, because 2 minus 2 is 0, and that's a division thing where you subtract the exponents, okay? And then minus 15. So when adding and subtracting, you keep the variable term to the power that's there already, okay? You don't, changing the exponents is a multiplication division thing, okay? So, linear properties, now that x is on one side, we got times 9, and then we add 15. That's going to be 18. So 18 equals 9 times x to the second. So then I divide by 9. 18 divided by 9 is 2. And now I find the square root of the number 2. It's not 1. Okay? 2 is an irrational square root. So the square root of the value 2 is 1.41. And that's your x answer. X is what I need to solve for, and x is what I have, so that I don't need the table, because I wasn't blocked. I didn't need to bring in that new variable. So 1.41, negative 1.41. Okay. Next one, we have 7 times the quantity, t minus 5 all over 3, and the quantity ends, and to the second power minus 3 equals 32. So we got a parentheses there, and we weren't blocked here, but we certainly are here, so blocked, okay? So If you're blocked, replace that with h. Okay, now you're solving for t. T is what you're solving for, and it is to the second power because it's part of the second power belongs to everything in there. So there's two answers. Okay, so bring in your h. 7 times h to the second power minus 3 equals 32. Okay, now when you bring in that h, you need to make your table and put what was inside the quantity, the whole thing, not just t minus 5. It's t minus 5 divided by 3, and then t minus 5 divided by 3. So now I solve for h. So highlight your multiplication. When you solve for h, you're using linear properties, meaning just get the h second by itself. So plus 3, that's 35. Then I will divide by 7. And 35 divided by 7 is 5. Now I find the square root of 5. So again, that could be positive or negative anytime you do a square root. So square root of 5 is 2.24. But remember, that's the answer for h. See, I'm solving for t. So then to solve for t, I bring what I brought in for, or what I replaced h with. That's back in the game now. It could be 2.24 on this side, and then negative 2.24 on this side. Now you'd like to be able to just add the 5, but we have the whole thing, this whole side's divided by 3. So we're going to get rid of the times 3 first, or the divide by 3 by timesing each side by 3 first, and then that goes away. Okay? So I have t minus 5, and then 2.24 times 3 is 6.72. Then I add 5 to both sides, and that's going to be 11.72. Now, on the other side, same thing. T's over here. Now, when the whole side is divided by 3, you get rid of the divided by 3 first with a times 3. Okay? Then I have the t minus 5 without the division. On the other side, we need to take negative 2.24 times 3, and that's negative 6.72. Now you get rid of your minus 5 with plus 5. So negative 6.72 plus 5 is going to be negative 1.72. There's your answers. Okay, I don't know why I wrote this problem twice. We'll just take it from here. So 6 times the quantity x minus 3 over 4 to the second, and then after the quantity to the second, we have a subtraction of a value of 8 equals 18. So we have to solve for the x. So x is to the second. It's in a parentheses, so there's two answers. But again, you can't distribute. That's blocked. So don't be trying to multiply the 6 to the x and the 6 to the negative 3. It's not going to work that way. Okay? Now, if that 2 wasn't there, yeah, I would, but it is. So I replace that whole entire quantity with h. So 6 times h to the second minus 8 equals 18. Okay. Then I bring my table in, because when I square root it, it's going to be a positive and a negative. Okay, definitely a positive and a negative. And I need to bring back the expression x minus 3 over 4. So you got times second power minus, so you highlight the times, so you add 8. That's 26. Then we're going to divide both sides by 6, and h to the second. 26 divided by 6 is, just put 4.3. Actually, second PRB that, 4 1/3. Now, find the square root of that, okay? So h could be positive or negative. And the square root of 4 1/3 is, just put 2 point, if you want a second PRB it, it's not going to work because that's irrational. So 2.08, okay? So remember, we have to solve for x. Now we go into our table. So we could have a 2.08 on this side, a negative 2.08 on the other side, okay? So the divide by 4 we have to get rid of first, since the divide by 4 is for the whole side. Okay, so you times 4 times 4. Okay, so 4 times 2.08, that's going to be 8.32. Then you plus 3, and that's 11.32. Okay, then over here, 1 whole size divided by 4, so then you times 4. And then negative 2.08 times 4 is negative 8.32. Plus 3, plus 3. Negative 8.32 plus 3 is negative 5.32. Okay, you will need to probably refer back to your notes on this one.